Hey, you. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. I'm trying to sound like Chris CC from New York, Westchester County. How's my accent, mate? I used to fancy myself with the American accent. For those who don't know, I traveled across some 30 states. I'd like to say it was 33, but that's a number we're not allowed to use. My hair looks insanely bad. I need to do some hair cutting myself, actually. I traveled through 30 states in 1988 of America. I think it was 30, maybe more, maybe a bit less. But me and myself and a guy called Tony, we traveled from the East Coast to the West and up, as far as Seattle and on the West Coast, and then back to the East Coast. I've titled this little vlog, I fancy going live, actually, because I've been, don't I look French? I've been a bit moaning about the nature of things with the way we are towards each other, and particularly in the light of the police knocking on our door again this week, with regards to an allegation that Alexander and I were seen out walking barefoot. And so I could only think of one time when he and I were both out barefoot. Anyway, we've got this letter which I used as the thumbnail for this video from the SS, social services, don't you know? They don't call themselves SS anymore. I suppose it's not as politically correct, but they used to be social services. Then they were social care, I think. And now they call themselves Education and Care Services, Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, MASH, Referral and Assessment Services. Dear David and Andrea of the Mantle family, your son, Alexander Mantle, I am writing to inform you that we have received a police Merlin informing that Alexander was seen bare feet playing on private property, and as a result the owner contacted the police. Because he was barefoot, or because he was on your private property? He wasn't barefoot on this occasion. He was wearing socks, just for your information, and that is a distinction. However, I wouldn't quibble that he wasn't wearing shoes. However, that doesn't seem to be the concern. The concern was that Alexander was playing on private property. And as a result, the owner of that said private property contacted the police because a 22-month-old child was walking on across some astroturf. Oh, was he going to damage the plants? Was he going to cause damage to your property? We are concerned. This is where it gets into. So when the police came to the door the other day, they said, the complaint is that your son and husband were seen barefoot. Now, we are concerned that Mr. Mantle got into an argument with the neighbor in front of Alexander. It wasn't an argument. It was me telling them that they are divine beings. Me telling them that it was incredible that they would be concerned that a little boy could cause them problems, and that he could surely be doing no harm to them. But he's trespassing, they told me. I told them that the earth is flat. I guess that could be construed as having an argument. Anyway, let me finish the sentence. We are concerned that Mr. Mantle got into an argument with we are concerned that I had an argument. If I had an argument, we have a department now, the social services, education and care. Education meaning indoctrination, and care meaning, well, you can take that to mean whatever you like. Yeah, so I'm not now entitled to have an argument with my neighbor if I want to, without them getting involved. But anyway, let me finish the sentence. We are concerned that Mr. Mantle got into an argument with the neighbor in front of Alexander. So Alexander the child should never get to see an argument. What happens if the mother and father have an argument, Mr. Social Services? Would you have to take the child away? Some kind of camp where they would be cared for by parents who didn't have the same vested interests in that child? This is my attempt at a German circa 1938 accent. Haven't finished the sentence. We are concerned that Mr. Mannel, who's we, are concerned that Mr. Mannel got into an argument with the neighbor in front of Alexander, and that the weather was cold for Alexander to be walking in bare feet. Again, that's an exaggeration. His feet weren't bare, or that's an inaccuracy, because bare feet would have to be without socks on. And anyway, if it was that cold and it was that unpleasant, I'd be taking care of that. I don't need you, MASH, social services, to be getting involved. Now here's the slightly annoying bit on there, on part of this authority. This is how the sentence starts. Local authority reviewed your case, as if that's a person. Local authority reviewed your case, and it was decided that we, as in local authority, or we as in the humans in the local authority, are not taking any further action at this stage. However, and this is the sting in the tail, if further referral of similar nature, full stop, further intervention may be necessary. So they've cut and pasted this paragraph, and it's rather embarrassing, I'm sure, if you were Carol Roach, the team manager, who's signed this, I think, in waiting. You know, and it's like, what's annoying for me is that they do feel like they have kind of, this is their power. Now we've got you on record. Our records show that once upon a time you had an argument with a neighbor. And it may have been cold and your son wasn't wearing shoes. Therefore, we are coming in your house and we are going to evaluate aspects of your life. It wasn't all bad news in the press today. In the press today. This came for me, and I will treat it with respect. This is it. A model. My battery's running flat. It's a not a model. A medal, I should say, that has been struck or minted by my colleagues from Squadron back in 1987. It here. It's a bit dark to see. That's my squadron. Well, that was Charlie Squadron's logo, and that was the unit that I was a part of, 6-1 Mechanized Battalion. This coin has been struck to commemorate my squadron's experiences up on the Lomba River back in 1987. It's funny actually, because I was only talking about yesterday. I was talking about an incident where we were bombed by some Russian planes, and actually I got an old friend of mine, Clint, quite emotional, and he came to visit me last night to talk about it. But he can't see that the Earth is flat, so I've been trying to talk to him about that for 3 years or more now, and I guess he's a lot like these other. No, that's not fair. I wouldn't be unfair on that to say that to Clint, but I will say that the rapport I had with these veterans and the connection I had to that military exploitation is different now. And back in when we had this reunion and I'd written a book and stuff like that in 2015, I'd found out about 9/11 being a hoax or a lie or whatever, false flag. I'd found out about that, but I hadn't really started talking much about it. However, I started talking to the guys about it at the reunion we had in October 2015. And I started making myself unpopular in that way. Because even these guys, even though they hate not all of them. So I don't want to be collectivizing them all, but they hate the regime that's in power now. And many of the guys that I was veterans with would go, hey, we long for the old days, when it was like it was. So they still have some irreverence or lack of insight into what the white government of South Africa represented and who they, whose side they were on, as it were. They certainly weren't on the side of the white people, even though they may have given us that thing. They've got some other agenda going on, and they're all part of that. The governments are all part of that same club. So these guys don't want to hear from me about what I have to say on that. They would much rather have the black-white dialectic than we're all in this together. And the thing is that when you keep the black-white dialectic, and it doesn't have to be skin color black-white. It's Zimbabwe, South Africa black-white. It's Muslim, non-Muslim, or whatever black-white. It's that kind of dialectic that we've got going on. And this is where they'd much rather stay than go, hey, actually, we're all in it together. And I see this actually. I just had a shave, but it looks strange. I need to put my phone on the charger because it's going to die in a second. Apologies for the technical hitch there. People would much rather keep this dialectic alive than give up the thing that they've actually... And you see this in the Flat Earth community, the Christian group is one that is struggling, and I know this is the same in the Muslim group. There's people who will struggle to let go of the core tenets of their indoctrination, even once they know that. I had a lovely opportunity on Thursday or Friday this week to introduce 3 young Jehovah's Witnesses to the Flat Earth Truth in their book. And, they were standing on the side of the street, sort of trying to, what's the word they use? Share the word, spread the good word, or whatever. So I took the opportunity to tell them that. And I know that if one out of those 3 were to take the Flat Earth, go and say, okay, yeah, I see that the book is a Flat Earth book, they would want to hang on to their religion as well as that. I'll just to kind of illustrate the point. At the beginning of 2018, I didn't know whether or not I should be wearing the Christian cross. I'd rejected all of that for many years, but at the beginning of the 2015 journey of Flat Earth, I realized that I needed to be reading the book again and looking at what the book said, and I'm slightly uncertain about this because of things that 1 or 2 people have said, but it feels to me like there is a Christ within us, and that the word Christ conjure up all sorts of, all the Christian dogmatism. So I would say the Christ or the Muhammad or the Buddha or Krishna or any of these deity characters that have been strung up in front of us in the past. My view remains that we have that potential because we are of that, we are from that. You might give it a different name in a different part of the world, but it's really essentially the same thing, and that we come from that. So we are, I think, meant to be trying to find that on our way back, trying to find that kind of Mohammedan light, that Christian light. And I think what I was thinking about the Islamic thing for a while. I've been thinking about it for a while, obviously, but thinking about how in their religion, in that religion, just like in the others, there's always that black-white, that dialectic, So they give you the Medina period of Muhammad's life, and I think the last 10 years he was in Medina, but before that he was in, name escapes me now. So he was, there was a period in which he sort of stood for passivity, for, you know, loving your brother and what have you. And then there was a period where he was quite opposite to that, where he was quite a warmonger and seen as very successful at war. Is my understanding of how this is, and so it creates that dialectic, as it does with him having then apparently two sons who split off and branch off and create again further dialectic and division within that already divided ideology. So I was wearing the Christian cross for a little while, and then I realized, well, it wasn't a Christian cross. It was like a symbol that looked like a Christian cross. So, and I realized when I went to Speaker's Corner last year that actually, if I stand there, so I was with my shirt off as I was last year, but if I stand there, you know, exposing myself completely to everybody and saying, here I am, I'm wearing a pair of shorts, no shoes or socks. I'm wearing a pair of shorts, but I'm wearing this cross too, or this symbol that looks like something that you see as a tool of division. Then how am I ever going to bring people to the same table? And yeah, I think this is an interesting part of what I see in the flat Earth, is because we still have such rich division among us. Great example of that was the discussion, really interesting conversation between Russian Vids and Dave Murphy the other night. I really enjoyed listening to the guys, and I didn't hear it all, but and unfortunately I caught up with it in the later part of it because it was 3 or 4 in the morning. Been done on American time, and so it kind of started descending in the chat room and started descending into, you see, because Dave Murphy is very strident that, you know, any Christ references, any references or references to that kind of ideology is all tainted. And of course Russian Vids is a strong Christian guy, you know, I admire them both. Both of them have given me a lot of good information along the way. But I don't necessarily agree with either of them when it comes to their stance, because one does sit on, you know, it must be through Christ, as my mom always told me, and the other says, you know, that's just that's just that's taking idol worship to another level. Hey, what's, you know, worshiping someone else? So, and that makes, in a fairly sort of Christian community like, you know, the American thing, it's pretty yeah, it doesn't go down very well. And I saw this, and I think that you see the feral or the darker side of us come out when we're not hearing what we still want to hear, you know, and what we want to hear is something that fits with the other bits that we think, you know, what else we have. So I just want to say as an aside on that, you know, Russian Vids he was on Patricia Steer's show last night, Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, and I wanted to say to him that I was really sorry. I didn't hear all of her show either because, well, again, it's 3 or 4 in the morning. But I just wanted to say to Russian Vids, I don't know if you'll see this, but I try to say to him that it's a real challenge, isn't it? Because you have, you know, you've stood side by side with these dudes who are you know, of your belief, of that same belief, and of the flat Earth, and yet we haven't actually found a way to be at ease or comfortable with that people don't think the same things that we do. This has been my challenge, of course, because I've made myself unpopular with my friends and my family because I've been dogmatic about, you know, you need to know this, you need to know what I know, you need to shed a lot of that burdensome kind of belief system that you've been indoctrinated with, because it'll help you, it'll heal you, it's good for you. I mean, Dave Murphy made a pretty strong comment. You know, I'd said something once on a few months ago on a thread about you know, seeking the Christ within, because this is how I characterize what I think we're meant to be doing, is seeking that character, that Buddha within us, that connection to the Most High from within us, and I refer to it as the Christ, or the Christos, or the, you know, and he was pretty rude to me, actually. He was like, I don't know what kind of religion you're spouting here, but blah, 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 blah. Something like that, you know, you're stuck in some religion, which seemed to me quite ironic, because, you know, he clings to the Old Testament and certain books, you know, like they're absolutely unchallengeable and untainted by the course of time and man's machinations, Machiavellian machinations, I should say, So, you know, I mean, I can't make any claims other than for what feels good for me, you know, what feels right for me. Dash. I have to dash off, actually. So you'll be pleased to know I'm going to keep this short. Much love and respect to my fellow soldiers from around the world, you know, but you've got to know that you've been lied to. The war that I was in was real. You know, we actually fought with people. We had bombs landing at us, on us, at us. You know, we were firing bombs at people, for sure. You know, that's absolutely real. But was the entire peace staged such as to create a political environment in which certain things could happen in Angola, in South Africa, in Namibia, in the whole of the Southern African region, perhaps in Cuba too, because of their involvement in what, you know, they were ferrying all this weaponry through from Russia, and the CIA were right there with us, you know. So these things are real, but they're also staged, and that's hard for guys to hear, particularly when people die. You know, they think I'm being insensitive by saying that, but no, it's hurt my entire life as a 19-year-old boy to be around that amount of death. Has hurt my life too. So I'm not insensitive to death. I'm not insensitive to, but people are dying on both sides of the battlefield. So don't get all head up about your team, because if you're kind of head up about your team, you're missing the point here. We're meant to be on the same team, all of us. And that's my platform. I think that's my platform for 2019, is to continue to talk for us all to be on the same team, rather than as we are, which is, you know, a zillion different points of difference. And, you know, I mean, I'm not saying we can resolve all those points of difference, and quite clearly, you know, people who are stuck on one idea, that might be me, and might be other people, we seem unwilling to let that stuff go. So as I've been saying for some time now, is my best offer to myself and my best offer to you is to continue to clean your mind, body, and soul. And in so doing, you will hear yourself, and you will hear what feels right for you, and you will do what feels right for you, and you will give out what you can give out, and what will return to you will be right. I think that's the best that we can do, because, as they say, you know, the truth is written on your heart, and you will only see the writing if you clear the way, you know, you clear away the muck. I really should say hello to the few who've come to say hello. Is that Amarok? I don't have my glasses, you know, right now. I'm sorry, I don't. Thanks for all your conversations lately, brother. It's nice to have you back on the kind of thing in the thing, and we've all been through I've been through a quieter spell, and I'm sure that might happen again, I suppose, but I don't think we should hold it. You know, we should take time to rebalance, because this is messed up crazy. messed up crazy how we are so badly lied to, badly treated, badly misled. That it's also exciting because there's so much we can do to change it. So, I should give you a wrench, bro. Is that Jack streaming? Hey, hi, man. Just been watching. Okay, cool. Well, does it say? So it was the Astro Woman. Yes, yes, it was the Astro Woman. It was the Astro Woman, the mother to be. You must wait until I was going to ask Andrea to come and join me, but Alexander's just woken up, so.
I can come.
You can come?
Yeah.
All right. Andrea's going to come and join me for a minute and give you her. I'm going to let her speak and say her little piece on this because it's absolute. I mean, you know, it comes down to the mother who brings the child, so it really does rely on her. Hey, baby.
Let's get you some powder. Let me get you some powder.
Oh, yeah. He's got a bit of a sore mouth. And he's just recovering from a nasty little cold. Or even, he had a 1 degree up temp. Not quite fever level, but he was sick for 2 days there and this week as well. Which wasn't so cool, given that we were thinking, okay, the police are going to come and see that he's also got a flu or cold, and they'll be like, oh yeah, you see, that's because you were arguing with the neighbor. Yeah, I guess there's only a few here, so I'm not wasting too many people's time. And if you're watching this after the fact, you can fast forward. Oh, but my lovely wife is here. I'm going to. Hi. I'm going to turn the camera around so you can talk directly to the camera, and I'll just film you, darling.
Okay.
Yes, why don't you sit down there? Okay. There we go, the star of the show.
Yeah. Well, what do I think? Obviously,
Oh, the boy mouth sore.
I think that my first reaction is wanting to be angry about this incident, and I'm entitled to be, because I think that it's pretty sad that, in fact, this is what I said to the police when they came to the door. They would live in a society where having bare feet, and as it turns out, he was playing on AstroTurf, which is even more unnatural. But
should we go to the other room?
Come on. It's okay.
Oh. I'm going to
You're
going to put your boobs out? Sorry, I'm going to have to put the camera on me because you don't want to see my wife breastfeeding.
No. Okay. So yeah. To have him, be called out because he's playing on someone's lawn that's not even lawn, and to have them call up about bare feet. I said to the police, I think it's incredibly sad, a sad state of where we've got to, and I think that would be my natural action, is to be angry, to almost want to go to their front door and say, what's wrong with you? But I think, oh baby,
we might have to attend to this little boy. We can do this later.
Yeah,
we'll do this later.
I just think for me, my in a couple of hours or maybe a day or two, my natural go-to is going to be to show compassion to this woman and her husband, and do differently in my life, live my life differently. And at that point, I need to do differently and look after my son.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no. I mean, we do live in a dystopian world right now, and there isn't. I'll tell you a quick funny story that comes to mind. My grandfather, Englishman. He had loved telling this story about, I guess we were talking about 1950s, where he was stumbling towards his car, having had too much to drink. He's come out the pub, and he's really struggling to get his key to open the door. Policeman comes along and says, "Oh, hello, sir. Looks like you're having a little trouble getting your door open. Let me help you with that." Click. Policeman unlocks the door. "Have a good day. On you, on you go." Today's police are so robocopped because they've all they've all been like designed. They've all been made to fear the the unruly lot that we are, and and also their authority has become greater and greater. Oh, you're empowered to do this and you're empowered to do that, and which is why they will come to your door and act. And I mean, Andrea's in her 40s, so the police who came to their door, their commanding officer is younger than her, right? Let alone how young these two clowns were, right? So they're coming here and getting all shirty with her about, oh, well, we'll decide whether or not your child is, there's any risks associated with it and so on. I mean, I assume that they decided that there wasn't anything really for them, which is why they passed it over to social services, but it's really just an extension of that same lack of trust. They've used some dreadful cases of child abuse as their means to kind of get the social services workers thinking that every call that comes in is a potential like life danger kind of thing, and every visit you make has to be seen through to the letter, because otherwise if something like happened to Victoria Columbier or Baby P, or if you're in America, you'd have your own versions of these stories of little children being dreadfully hurt until they actually die. And if these are real stories, they oftentimes pin the blame on all the various authorities, the hospital doctors who didn't do, the GP who didn't do this, the police who didn't do that, the social service worker or workers who were overstressed, who were temporary agency workers or whatever, who didn't do this or that. And so they use all of that as fodder for more legislation making. And then that legislation, as they do with the terrorism laws, that legislation then starts to impact everything. So you can't even carry your own bottle of water that you're busy drinking. You can't carry that onto into the airport, well, beyond the security barrier, because it's possible that water might be a bomb. Which reminds me, as I'm looking at my distiller over there, on the morning that I was taken down to the police station in cuffs for questioning with regards to my growing of plants. I asked them before I left, I said, look, I've been out for an hour and a half walking with my son. I'm quite thirsty. Would you mind if I had a glass of my distilled water before we go? It's there on the window ledge. Nope, we can't give you that. I'm like, well, it's water. No, we can give you some water from the tap, and that's all you can have. I'm like, well, that's water too. But that could be something else. We don't know what that is. Oh, so I keep a bottle, a 5-liter jug of poison on my window lid, just in the eventuality that you thugs turn up at my door, so I can poison myself. I don't have to talk to you no more. See, this is because they've been watching too much TV. These kids, these police kids that come to your door, they've been watching TV. They've been watching police shows since they were 5 years old and younger. And in that clever kind of manipulation of the mind, they have been propagandized to the point that they think they are Sylvester Stallone. And they think that this is, what was that movie he was in, that RoboCop? This is what, and you see them walking around now jangling with all their like electronic devices and stun guns and you name it, poison and anyway. What Andrea was saying just now was, she was starting to reflect how she felt initially, and I think you'd be wrong not to feel somewhat annoyed and angry and put upon to be in this situation, I think. But we also know that this is part of our experience here, is to learn to have these things and not react in that way. Because to go and cause a war, to go and even, writing back to the council to say, listen, you have no jurisdiction. Stop wasting my and my family's time. Update your records. And please do not make threats and insinuations that we're now on the book and, further book. Because this is how they did. When I worked for social services, I worked for the local government. And this is what they did to me. It was, they had there's one on your record here, and now there's a second strike, you're out. But we have this system that we've got to navigate around for the moment because there's no way it's going away at this point in time. The majority of the folk are still watching the TV, and the majority of the folk are as lost in that indoctrination you got when you were 6, 7 years old to say, hey, it's that kind of mind. So this couple who decided to call the police because Alexander had walked on their property and I had argued with them, they've been that, and because they, this is what happens every time, isn't it? And this happens to me a lot, has happened to me quite a bit in my lifetime, is that I don't do anything about a situation because I don't really want to involve the authorities. But the person who calls the authorities first, they have the upper hand. They go, oh yeah, he had an argument. He shouted at me. He did something, he did this and he did that. Oh, okay, well, we'll investigate your thing. And so I'm the guy who's the suspect. I'm the guy who can kind of have two people in their suits, their uniform, come to my door and grill my wife as to what we've been up to. And then get letters from social services saying, now we are on notice that you are perhaps a problem for having had a conversation, an argument, on allowing your child to be barefoot. It has to teach us love, it has to teach us how to find love and compassion. And as one of the books that people refer to says, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.